I'm so thrilled to share with you our topic for today. We're going to talk about your journey with AWS. We're going to share with you an executive lens into how you really determine where you are in that journey and what are some of the potential next steps that you could take. But before that, I wanted to take a quick moment to introduce your speakers for today. To my left, we have Jay Well, Senior Manager for Technology, and Keith Bryan, Senior Manager for Sales. My name is Arjun Chakravarti. I have been with AWS for a little over 3 years, and I'm a Principal Operations Leader. So during my time at AWS, I've been within the Strategy and Operations org. What that means is I spend my time as a business advisor to different leaders, advising them on operations, strategy, and analytics. But I may look young, but I'm not. I have close to 17 years of experience across different industries, different firms, and different geographies. But this is not about me. Enough about me. This is about you. This is about your journey on AWS. So I wanted to quickly take you through why we thought this session was required at re:Invent. Now, I want to start by saying that everything that we do, we work backwards from the insights that we get from our customers. We work backwards from the insights that we get from the field teams that work with our customers. So here's what we've learned. High level, if we were to divide a customer's AWS journey into two parts, there is the post-AWS move part. This is where you work with your technical teams, really to deep dive on all the plethora of services that we have to offer. You really understand how do you utilize those services. You really spend time to design your technical architecture that's scalable, that's reliable, that's secure. Historically, at re:Invent, you would see that we spend a lot of time on the post-AWS move piece. But there is also the pre-AWS move part. This is where you, as execs, need to go back to some of your internal teams, your lines of businesses, and even sometimes your boards to convince them of why it makes sense for you to move to the cloud. So maybe we haven't done a great job in the past of getting our customers ready for the pre-AWS move part. Maybe we haven't shared enough guidance on what resources you have available, who can you really engage with, and how do you really determine which projects you need to prioritize. Maybe we have only shared with you limited guidance on who you can work with to estimate some of your costs. Maybe even build a return on investment or a business case that you can take back to your lines of businesses, your boards, or even your internal teams to explain to them why it makes sense to move to the cloud. And maybe we haven't done a great job of sharing with you what are some of the Amazon programs or mechanisms, like we call them, that can actually help you today based on where you are in your journey. And then finally, for new to AWS customers, historically, we have seen that maybe we haven't done a great job of letting you know what you could be doing at re:Invent and what are some of the things that you must be thinking about post re:Invent. So even if few of the points that you see here resonate slightly with you, I promise you, our goal for today is to help you answer some of these questions and really help you understand what are some of the next steps that you can take. Now, there's thousands of customers and thousands of customer journeys. So we were debating amongst ourselves what's really the best way for us to share with you all these customer journeys. We wanted to make sure that it's relatable. We wanted to make sure that it's enjoyable and possibly fun, right? So here's what we did. We divided the slides into 4 different key personas. You're going to meet those personas shortly. Each of these key personas are at a different stage of their cloud journey. Now, we understand that this may not be a one-size-fits-all. It may not be a 100% match to where you see yourself. But our hope is that somewhere, somehow, deep down, you empathize with these personas. You feel their pain points and their struggles. So here's what today's flow is going to look like. We're going to start by introducing our core personas. We'll tell you who they are, what they like, what really is important to them, and what are some of the struggles that they're going through. Then we're straight away going to dive into some of the recommended next steps that they can use to solve some of those challenges or problems. From there, we're going to share with you some real customer use cases so that you realize these are not personas that we're pulling out of thin air. They're real customers that actually tie back to these personas. From there, we're going to share with you a specific Amazon program or a mechanism that makes sense for this persona that they can leverage right away. So imagine that for a second. If you find yourself relating to a persona, there's an Amazon mechanism today that you can leverage and you can learn about. And then finally, we're going to talk about some immediate next steps. What are some of the sessions you could possibly attend at re:Invent? Who are some of the people you could meet? And what are some of the things you can think about as soon as you get on the flight back home? So again, I want you to imagine for a second, even if somehow you relate to one of these personas, like you will be able to go and talk to a customer today who's probably gone through the same struggles you are going through today. That's powerful, right? Now, we know that sometimes content can be overwhelming, so I want you to take a quick look at the top right column there. And we've put that specifically so that at any point during the slides, if you feel that you're getting a little lost or you feel a bit distracted, just take a look at the top right. It'll tell you exactly which persona we're talking about and where you are in this flow. Now, we hope that you find the content enjoyable, relatable, and more importantly, fun. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce to you our core personas. So first up, please meet traditional Ted. Who is Ted? Ted is a 56-year-old single dog dad, or a parent, like we call him. He's the VP of IT for a mid-sized manufacturing firm who spent his entire career in data centers. What does Ted really like? Ted's life revolves around his dog, Harry. He enjoys hikes, he enjoys walks, he goes on trails. And Ted is a proud guy. He is proud of the fact that he spent 20 years in data centers. His experience has been predominantly in homegrown applications and XLS to run the business. But there's something that keeps Ted up at night. His leadership is looking for a 2024 disaster recovery or a DR strategy. This is the 4th year in a row that he has been allotted less budget and no headcount. Every year, he's being asked to do more and more with less and innovate, innovate, innovate. What makes this worse? Ted doesn't have a lot of cloud knowledge. Maybe he's seen some videos, maybe he's spoken to a few people, but realistically, he doesn't have a lot of cloud knowledge. So Ted's problem statement really becomes, he has to come up with a disaster recovery strategy for 2024 that's secure, reliable, and cost efficient. Now that you've met Ted, I want you to meet unsure Ursula. Who's Ursula? 45-year-old mother of twin boys. She's a senior director at an energy company. She's senior exec by day and super mom by night. She spends her evening with her twins, mostly when they're swimming, and she's found on the phone taking a course, maybe on Coursera or Udemy. So she's a learner. She's passionate about learning. She recently completed her AWS Associate Certification, and she's often found whiteboarding ideas in her basement, when the kids are asleep, of course, right? And recently, she implemented a DR strategy in our company that went really well. But something keeps Ursula up at night as well. Her VP has asked her to execute on a cloud-accelerated innovation program. Her company uses legacy applications, core ERP systems, and SaaS services. So the problem gets compounded. Now, Ursula knows the basics of AWS, but maybe not enough to build a plan. So she has implemented a DR, or a disaster recovery, but she's unsure how to prioritize her projects. So Ursula's problem statement becomes, post-DR, she's unsure how to decide which projects she needs to prioritize first. Now that you've met unsure Ursula, I want you to meet Familiar Fei. So Fei is a 35-year-old father of 3 girls. He's into fitness, spends a lot of time in the gym. You can see he looks quite fit. He's the co-founder and CTO of a baby formula company that grew to 1,000 employees from 5 employees very quickly in 2 years. He spends his morning at the gym when the girls are asleep, of course. He spends his evenings fiddling on the AWS console. He's very, very familiar with AWS. He's passionate about resiliency, he's passionate about security, and he's very familiar with hosting SAP on AWS. But like the others, something keeps Femi up at night as well. Femi must expand across the US very quickly, using his headquartered staff at Virginia. Recently, he's received a lot of pushback from his internal lines of businesses, from his board, and his partners, because he doesn't have a roadmap. And why is that? Maybe he doesn't know how to determine a return on investment. And how do you really build a business case that can help you move all into AWS? So Femi's current problem statement becomes, he doesn't know how to estimate costs, convince his board, and scale out to cover rapid expansion. Finally, I want you to meet Savvy Sally. 42-year-old single mom. 17-year-old son just went off to college. Whew, thank God. Now that the son's out of the house, she has tons of time to focus on work. She was recently hired as the VP of tech for a life sciences company. She's extremely savvy with AWS. She loves traveling. She loves to go and meet her worldwide teams across the globe. She also loves training her staff and how to leverage AWS and Amazon mechanisms. And why shouldn't she? She used to work as an operations leader at AWS. But like the others, something keeps Sally up at night as well. She feels that her company lacks a data monetization strategy and doesn't have a strategic roadmap. Their company have moved petabytes and petabytes of data into AWS, but they don't really know how to monetize this data. She also feels that the culture needs some work, and her global teams don't buy into a common vision for innovation. So Sally's problem statement becomes, Sally is all in on AWS, but her company needs an operations, a business, and a tech strategy roadmap that everyone buys into. So now that you've met a few, or actually all of our personas, I want to do a quick show of hands to see how many of you here relate to traditional TED. No judgment here. Okay, great, thank you. How about unsure Ursula? Awesome, great. What about Familiar Fei? Okay, great. What about Savvy Sally? Wow, awesome. Excellent. So now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Jay, who's going to take it to the next section.
Thank you, Arjun. Good morning. Now we all get the introduction about all the personas. Let's dive into each and every personas and understand some of the mechanism solutions. I am Jayval, Senior Manager for a Solutions Architecture team in Dallas, Texas. I'm from Austin, Texas. And I've been in the industry for the last 20 years, and I love AWS. Let's dive deep into traditional TED. Like Arjun mentioned, who is TED? He's a VP of a mid-sized manufacturing company, and he takes pride in his data center experience, 20 years experience. Who wouldn't? But the thing is, he doesn't have much cloud experience or cloud knowledge. Also, he was asked to do more with less in terms of headcount and budget. So his problem statement is, he has to come up with a disaster recovery solution for 2024, which is secure, reliable, and cost efficient. So this is how it's going to work from now onwards. For each and every persona, we're going to give you 4 prescriptive steps that will give you what are the steps that you can take to get to your end of the journey. But that said, you don't have to specifically take these steps one by one. You can start anywhere you want. So for TEDs, the first step is we recommend TEDs to go and talk with his account team, especially because the account team can educate TED around AWS Cloud, also educate him around how to estimate the cost for the cloud operations as a whole. The second step is the AWS team can also help TED to assess his on-prem environment and tell like what do you have and where they are and how much you're using them. So with that, the AWS team can also help TED to build a business plan which includes what are the possible solutions for DR. For an example, it could be a native solution from AWS site, or it could be a partner solution. We could also help the solutions architecture team or the technology team can also help TED with, hey, what data or the backup should be in which tier, so that will be cost efficient for TEDs. Finally, with all this idea, we should be able to help build a business plan. TED can present in front of the board or his directors, leaders, so he should be able to get the approval from that and move forward. So let's review a use case. Most of the AWS customers start with a DR solution. In fact, I used to work for a healthcare company. We started with DR solution. In this case, a mid-sized manufacturing companies, they are starting with DR solution. Again, if they have a constraint around cost, limited expenses or limited budget, limited headcounts, this is a great place to start. Also, quick win. You can show a quick win to the board of directors and CFO. The solution, there are many DR solutions exist. We have native DR solution, elastic DR solution in AWS. Also, there are partner solutions. So why do we need these solutions? Because these solutions can be built with fraction of cost within a couple of weeks. And I saw that with my own eyes. So what are the best practices or mechanisms that Arjun mentioned we can use? How many of you heard about immersion days? Can you raise your hands? Wow, a lot of people. That's awesome. It's really, it makes me really happy because the solutions architecture team is doing a great job. So immersion days are a mechanism that we use to educate our customers about AWS services in a lab environment. So you can learn about AWS services there, and then you can take the knowledge and build it in your own production environment. That's what immersion days are known for. Plus, especially for a DR solution, what you can do is we can certainly build some specific immersion days around that. We can also customize that for your own business need. So what are the next steps for TED? The first step is, as you all at the reInvent, please come to Wednesday or Thursday breakfast event from 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, where you can meet solutions architects, some partners, and talk about your DR business needs. They'll give you some of the ideas what you could do, and especially like based on your industry vertical also you can get some idea around that. Post reInvent, please engage with your account team and talk with your solutions architects to do some immersion days. Those are complimentary, free. So please learn about AWS services. Again, it doesn't have to be DR, it can be anything. If you want to talk about compute or data lake, please talk with your solutions architects. They'll happily come and host some immersion days. And with that, for any TEDs, please talk with the account team. Let's shift our gears toward Ursula. So who is Ursula? The supermom. Yes, she is the senior director for an energy company, and she has completed the DR solution. Now you can see the flow, like we start with something like a TED has to build a DR. Now Ursula already built the DR. Now she's going to the next step. You can see the flow now. So again, she has a DR solution. So now what she wants to do is she wants to find what's the next big thing she could do to increase the top line revenue. So if we want to define the business problem for Ursula, she wants to find the top 3 projects that she can propose in front of her VP and get the approval. So again, what are the steps? Step 1, talk with the account team. Why? Because Ursula already has a DR solution. It could be a partner solution, it could be a native AWS solution. Either way, she has a solution. Now, if she wants to build the next big thing, she needs to have a strong technology foundation. So to build a strong technology foundation, we recommend talk with your solutions architecture team. They will educate you about landing zone, control tower. Those are the basic elements to build strong security resilient architecture. That said, the next step is, again, the account team can bring you some of the vertical experts. So who are those vertical experts? They have the domain knowledge about your industries. So they will come and work with you directly, very closely, and understand your business needs and come up with some of the best ideas. What are the innovative things happening in the industry? They bring that knowledge to you so we can work together and come up with some best ideas. And then they work with you, the account team and the industry verticals and the technologists. They all work together and come up with top 3 ideas based on the cost. Also, what are the quick wins that you can show to your CFOs? So you can get the next funding for the other big project, right? So we'll work towards that. Also, we'll give you some cost estimates around if you want to migrate your entire infrastructure to AWS, how much it's going to cost. We'll give you that estimate as well. Plus, we also educate you about one of the mechanisms. So one of the mechanisms, again, here we talk about map. We'll dive into that in the next upcoming slide. So now we have a nice business plan which talks about the business problem, who are the right people, and also what are the programs. So now Ursula can propose that to your board of directors and get the green light and move forward. Let's review a use case. This use case is for a customer called Magellan, which is a division of OneOak. And this customer, based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, they started with a DR solution. And it was very successful. So then what they did is they wanted to understand what are the different things that they could do to increase the top line revenue. So they engaged with our energy vertical team, and we went and worked closely with them. And we identified some top projects. One of them is optimizing the supply chain, especially in the midstream, how to optimize the midstream flow. So we worked with them very closely. That project got implemented successfully. It went to production. Now they're taking their journey towards data lake and GenAI, of course, you're excited about. So they're taking the GenAI journey as well. So the important thing to understand here is, again, building a strong foundation, working with your line of business and come up with some new projects that increase your top line revenue. For that, you can use some cool mechanisms. One of the mechanisms is called MAP, Migration Acceleration Program. What is MAP? we as a AWS team, we did hundreds of map. So through that, we learned what are some of the best practices. Like we learn from the customers what's working, what's not working. We learn from that and we share with other customers without names or anything, but as a best practice, we share that. Plus, we also share the best people. Like to make the migration work, we bring the ProServe team, we bring some partners, they did a lot of migrations for your specific workload, we bring them. Also, we bring some funding as well. It's, again, this is for alleviate some of the pain that you're going through your migration. We bring some funding to assist you with that. Plus, on top of all these things, we also help your resources get trained using AWS training. And that said, for Ursula's here, for you the next step is, as you're at the reInvent, again, please go to the Magellan session, which is at Caesars Palace, Caesars Forum 113, Tuesday, 12:30 to 1:30. Again, Bhupesh is here, he's the CIO, he's going to talk about this with my friend Keith. And also, please attend the Accelerate Your Migration session or roundtable event on Wednesday, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. And post reInvent, of course, talk with the account team. Please ask them about map. They will happily bring the map experts to you so you can learn about map. Also, talk with your solutions architecture team and understand what is landing zone, what is control tower, how to activate that. So you'll have a strong foundation so you can do the next big thing. Stack your ideas, build a business plan, move forward. With that, I'm going to hand over to my business partner, Keith.
Thank you, Jay. As you can see, this is not a technical session. We're offering some prescriptive guidance on how AWS has come alongside many of our customers with our partners' help to help begin a journey, plan a journey, and execute a journey. The next 2% that I'm going to talk about is more the later part of that conversation. So my name's Keith Bryan. I'm a sales leader based in the Dallas market. I've been with AWS close to 5 years, had the privilege of doing nothing but this. My team's specialty is to help customers begin their journey to AWS for lots of different reasons. I've been doing the tech, leading tech organizations, tech sales team for close to 30 years now. I'm going to talk about Femi first. Bit of a recap on Femi. Now, if you recall, Femi is a CTO, one of the founders of a fast-growing company from 5 employees to 1,000 employees in a very short amount of time. But Femi has been tasked with a US rollout, a rapid expansion. I think that's pretty familiar to many of us. And what he's come to find out is that, hey, I need to do it with the same staff I've got today. I have some familiarity, and we've seen the benefit of moving to the cloud in prior projects. But I need a better story. I need a better business case. And so I need to continue to earn trust and execute with my line of business partners. So the problem statement for Femi is, hey, I'm not unsure, how do I estimate the real cost of pulling this off? How do I set expectations correctly? How do I then execute against those expectations to cover this rapid expansion? So I recommend three or four steps. My suggestion, having worked with Femi's in the past, is, hey, share with your account team what the big plan is. What are you being tasked with? What is the thing you're really trying to pull off? Chances are we have helped a customer perhaps in a similar situation, perhaps the same industry, and we can bring alongside industry experts, some expertise that we've alongside of it. The second step for Femi in his journey is to, hey, let's help Femi think through a cloud operating model. Now, cloud operating models are not just about the tech. They really have to consider the people, the training. Are my folks ready? How do I get them from here to there? How do I build a bridge? How do I live with the fact that I have one foot in this traditional way of doing things and an aspiration to move everything to the cloud, or at least for this particular project? So thinking about a cloud operating model to include things like applications, the CI/CD pipeline, always being vigilant around security, compliance, and data governance. Obviously, you have to think about costs and set the right expectations around that part of it. And then ultimately, are there things that could sunset over time? Perhaps there's software contracts or services contracts, or perhaps even exiting the data center when it makes sense to do so later in the day. Once we have that cloud foundation operating model, that framework sort of built, our next step for Femi would be to build the business case. This is where the expertise of AWS, along with our partners, can actually help them build a TCO, an ROI model, a thing you'd want to take to the leadership team that will talk about this expansion, execute this particular project, put an ROI around it, and that's something you can really take up. Now, the good news for Femi is that this expansion really did work. He was able to execute the project in 5 months. He kept the promises to the line of business on delivering the services that needed to be there to cover the expansion, and they were able to do it on budget. The case study is Love's Travel Stops. I'm not sure if Bob is in the audience today, but this is Bob's story. Love's Travel Stops is based in Oklahoma City. Perhaps some of you are familiar, have used them or stopped there. But they're in 42 states around the US with 644 locations. This is precisely their problem. They were expanding quickly. And the challenge that Bob had at Love's is that, hey, we're a big SAP shop. We're now migrating to the latest version of SAP, and the core transactions that we're going to use, coming from the edges of my network back to my core and then back again as we expand, those are only going to increase. The reality of it is where the SAP environment when hosted currently was not as resilient as it could be. They found some trouble in scaling things out. And so he felt like it was time to take a look at, hey, can the cloud help me here? Now, unlike perhaps a TED beginning with a DR strategy first, or perhaps a smaller project bit out of the way, this expansion was going to happen. And the core ERP system was the first workload they moved to the cloud. This is a critical project. If anybody's responsible for running SAP or tied to it, you know how important that really is. So the solution really was around bringing that to the right cloud. Now, Bob did a lot of homework, did a very extensive review of the cloud providers that were available to Love's, and he picked AWS. And he's happy to share that story with you if you want to catch up with him. But what he found was that the amount of services and things that AWS can bring to the table, combined with our 17 years of experience of being in the cloud, hosting SAP many times over and over again, and our resiliency and security, it ended up being the right choice, or why he picked AWS. Now, the project went really, really well, and the expansion has gone great. Most importantly, Bob was able to earn trust and keep that trust with the line of business because the expansion did roll out. Now, he'll also probably share with you that instead of traditionally thinking about my IT spend, I'm no longer buying and budgeting for peaks in my business. I'm able to scale up and down using AWS technologies to right size all the time, cost optimize all the time. Now, it's great because what Arjun talked about at the beginning was that post-migration. If you're not familiar with all those tool sets and the people that can help you at AWS with optimizing your networks, right-sizing your networks, and keeping that really, really tight, it's a really fundamental thing we would encourage you to do. So instead of buying for the peaks and guessing, like he's able to flex with the business. And now the lines of business are bringing more and more opportunities for Bob to execute against. The thing we would recommend for the FEMIs in the audience to work on is this cloud economics modeling tool. So we actually have teams that can come alongside, just engage your account manager. They can help you build these TCO models, look at what you're spending today, how much are you utilizing these licensing positions that you have, am I using only 27% of these assets, build this cost model for you, and then worry about the hard and the soft costs so you can build a proposal to take to your leadership team. This cloud financial management is a really important part of this too, on how do I manage and optimize those costs once I've moved to the cloud. It's a really important part because the last thing you want to do is set expectation with your leadership team, perhaps your CFO, and then come in way over the budget over a period of time. They don't like surprises, so this cloud modeling tool is a really important part of this step. So that's what we recommend for FEMI. Now, while you're here during the week, we'd encourage you to do a couple of things. There's a reception on Wednesday night on November the 26th at 6 p.m. There's a restaurant called the Canatia in the like a big atrium area in the Venetian. Bob will be there. And then also there's another session called Accelerate Your Migration. This is a really important event as well. This is going to happen on Wednesday from 2 to 4. You can scan the QR code up here and register for these events. As Jay had mentioned earlier, if you have a specific need or want to bounce some ideas off somebody, the essays are available to you guys throughout the week on Wednesday and Thursday from breakfast from 8 to 10 p.m. And again, you can register for an event there. Post reInvent, hey, share with your account team what the big plan is. If you're faced with something like FEMI was in terms of a big rollout or a large migration, or we have a sudden change in the business, let the account teams know. Let them tap into all the resources that Amazon and AWS can bring to bear to help you think through and build a plan for your specific business. We love nothing more than working backwards from customers' aspirations. The last persona today is Savvy Sally. Again, Sally was recently hired into a life sciences company. She has an extensive amount of experience with AWS. She has some knowledge, some understanding. She has seen the benefit in how this scale and agility has helped their business. But what's keeping her up at night is she believes that there's more value there. She believes that there's value in this data. She knows that the silos of business across this big enterprise are not connected. They're not talking to one another. But she has seen and knows in her gut there's more value there if we could just get everybody kind of tied together. So the problem for her is, how do I help build this business and this IT and this operational strategy that begins to get everybody bought into an overall plan around innovation? The steps we would recommend for the Savvy Sallies is, again, at the next quarterly business review, share with your account team what this need might be, what this big idea is, right? What this innovation feel in your gut might be. What's changed in your business? Where do you believe there could be additional upside? Now, what would happen then is that this account team can then bring expertise, case studies, an ability to dive deep with you on industry expertise to really work through that part of the journey. The part here is to help Sally build this transformational network. Again, it can be quite humble at the beginning or quite sophisticated. It doesn't really matter kind of where you are in that journey. Just understand what we're trying to share today is there are lots of mechanisms, lots of people, lots of know-how, lots of funding, lots of ways that we can come alongside and help you build this bigger vision. So once we've helped Sally build this transformational strategy, now it's time to dive deep with her business partners, her lines of businesses. Now it's time to take this framework and begin interviewing them in terms of, hey, what are your top line aspirations? What if we could move this? What if we could change this customer experience? What if we were able to improve top line by 2 to 3%? Or perhaps impact the cost of goods sold and affect our bottom line by 2 or 3%? What are those ideas that are lingering in these silos that are perhaps hadn't been available to be executed against? Or because we never had the ability to do so, what could be unlocked if you just began to ask? So once you get that understanding of having a transformational framework, and now you have an interview with a line of business, you understand what their aspirations are, the way we recommend you guys begin to connect things is the idea of these executive briefing centers and these culture of innovation sessions. Now, I've been here close to 5 years. I've had the privilege of hosting many, many customers in our Seattle EBC. Could have been London, could have been New York. There's EBCs around the country. But it's so much fun to see the gears begin to spin. CFOs and operational managers and customer service executives, like, they had no idea that some of these ideas were even possible. But it's really fun to see this transformational thing begin to take shape. Our case study for the Savvy Sallies is a company called Caris Life Sciences. Caris Life Sciences is based in Irving, Texas. They're a precision oncology company. Essentially what that means is they take the entire RNA and DNA strand, take the full exome and transcriptome sequencing, and analyze those tissue samples, helping oncologists make very prescriptive, personal recommendations on a therapy treatment, drug treatments, and a protocol for individual cancer patients. They've been doing this for 20 plus years. Full RNA and DNA samples, right? That is a ton of data, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time. The problem is that they were kind of throttled by their technology. You know, they were storing that thing on tape and traditional mechanisms for so long, and essentially what that was doing is throttling the ability for their scientists to analyze more and more samples and give that personal recommendation for patients. That was putting lives and top-line revenue at risk. They did the thing that we recommended that Sally did in step one, which was, hey, share with your account team what the big idea is. What is the thing that's holding us back? And so working with the AWS team, we helped them essentially figure out a way to begin migrating 25 petabytes of data. Y'all can get your head around that. It's a staggering amount of data. And move that to the AWS cloud. And the reason why is that now this new data set's using our big data tools, our computing, our storage horsepower, our AIML tools, and our serverless technology. And that was all enabled by our professional services, helping them with the migration to plan and execute it, right? The so what who cares about that is that now their scientists are able to execute on 10x, and that's growing rapidly, the number of tissue samples they can analyze. Now they're taking it a step further, and now they're creating specific new algorithms for specific kinds of cancer, and they're able to detect in the data, how many more of these do we have? Where should we be going next? It's begun to unlock a ton of really valuable data. Part of that innovation cycle that has occurred, though, is that they began to ask different and better questions. Sally's gut was right. There was value in that data. Because now they're using a service called AWS Data Exchange. They recently did a deal. By the way, you can find Mason. I'll talk about where Mason, their CTO, is going to be presenting at reInvent. You can ask Mason about it in person. But through this data exchange, they've taken this 20 years of data and now it made available to pharmaceutical companies because they have a really, really big interest in helping develop very specific new cancer drugs and therapies and treatments for cancer patients. Because the data is now available to them, you strip out all the personal information, right? These two things meet in this data exchange, and it's now a wonderful thing. Now they're able to have access to data they could never have access before. We're seeing retailers and CPG companies doing the same thing. Karis would tell you that today their tech stack has never been more resilient, scalable, and it's actually very cost-effective for the value that they're getting out of it. So the thing we'd recommend you do if you're the Sallys in the room, if you want to drive this alignment across your organization is come to an EBC. We'd love to host you. We'd also love to host you for a thing called a culture of innovation. This is where we talk about the mechanisms and the process that Amazon has been using for years and years on how we develop new things. So for example, Amazon Prime, the Kindle, in fact, even AWS, was built through this very prescriptive way that we've done innovation over the years, and we're very happy to share it openly. Not to say we have it right, or it's the only way, but it's worked very well for Amazon. We love sharing our methodology around the culture of innovation. So while you're here this week, I'd encourage you to meet Mason, the CTO for Karis. He's going to be speaking on Thursday, November the 30th from 1 to 2 at the MGM in the chairman's room in room 368. And there's 2 other sessions I'd recommend. Unlocking Growth and Resilience, the Power of the Culture of Innovation, that's Tuesday from 11 to 1. And Defining Your Next billion-dollar opportunity. It's possible. It really is possible. That's the fun part of all this, is now you can think about what wasn't I able to do that I can now do. After reInvent, we'd encourage you to work with your account teams and say, hey, is an EBC right for me? Could it help me bring this plan and all these people together? Should I think about doing a Culture of Innovation session and unlocking all these really big ideas? So I hope this has been fun. This has been informative. Now it's time to kind of bring it all together. Across these 4 personas, we wanted to share, hey, how do I really start a journey? Does cloud make sense for my organization, for my business? I know how to do this really, really well. And the other spectrum is like, I'm really worried about, could we go faster? Could we go bigger? How do we help drive innovation across the board? But everybody's at a different point in this journey. There is no one right place to start. So recapping next steps for TED, we think an immersion day would be really good. Sit down with one of our engineers, our architects during one of these open sessions. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, there's breakfast times available. For Ursula's, if you'd like to meet Bhupesh Arora, the CIO from Magellan, he'll be presenting the case study on their data lake and what all that data, he had the same gut feeling that Sally did. We could innovate. We can really create with our line of business partners and move much, much faster, much, much bigger. He'll present the Magellan story in Caesar's Palace on November the 28th from 12:30 to 1 in Forum Room 113. For the FEMIs, you can meet Bob from Love's Travel Stop here at the session. We'd also encourage you to attend the Acceleration Migration Roundtable, which is on Wednesday from 2 to 4. And for Sally, Mason, the CTO, will be presenting at the MGM, and then the 2 sessions I just talked about in terms of unlocking growth and then and defining your next billion-dollar opportunity. Here's a QR code you can scan and register for those events. We'll be around later if you want to have a quick chat around that part of it. But we are so happy that you've spent some time with us today. So on behalf of Arjun and Jay and myself, welcome to reInvent. We hope you have a fantastic week, and we really thank you for being here. But AWS is invested in helping you guys innovate and go big. So we would love nothing more to come alongside and help you do that. So thank you and have a great day.